Well, welcome back to the Communication Mastery Podcast with me, Mark Burlinson. This is where we unleash the power of understanding. And this episode, we've got a real treat for you. I've got my guest in the studio, my friend here, Michelle Griffin, and we are going to have a conversation around all the things that Michelle does. So, Michelle, welcome. And it's great to have you on.
Thank you, Mark.
You do wear many, many hats. So why don't you just tell us about you in a nutshell? What are some of the things you do?
Okay. This is such a nutshell to crack open, right? Thank you, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here. And the hats that I wear. So let me just say that I have a passion for branding. I have learned that passion from a job right out of college, which was just a few years ago. But I've come back into contact with that passion of branding. So I am currently the director of branding for Winslow Law Firm. When Tom Winslow went on his own to create Winslow Law Firm, he wanted to rebrand. And so we got together, and the two of us together were able to put all of his ideas together and create his branding of committed counsel for clients, coworkers, and community. So I love that, and I envelop that every day that I am out in the community for him. But on the other hand of branding, I am also a salesperson for Fully Promoted, which I love. Partner together with Tom Narducci, who is the owner of the franchise, and I'm able to help all of the businesses that I can get my hands on and be able to help with all of their promotional product needs, as well as their branded apparel and everything branding for each individual business or event. So I love that. Have some really great clients that we do a lot of business with, always looking to help new clients as their needs, whether it be some type of expo that's going on, all that swag that they hand out. I love being able to help them with that.
That's great.
So I volunteer a lot. I am a Myrtle Beach Chamber of Commerce ambassador, which I love. I get to work with investors, and I get to go to all of the events. The Myrtle Beach Chamber of Commerce is very busy, and so we go to events here, there, and everywhere. Celebrating, it's always, I always try to bring a positive vibe, because we're either celebrating new businesses opening or just great events to celebrate those businesses in the area, small or large. I just love that part of volunteering for the chamber. Couple other little hats. I worked at the Hilton Myrtle Beach Resort. I was an executive assistant there for 10 years. And I kind of learned how to do everything. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but the Hilton has kept me on call. I'm there probably a couple times a month just to help them out. So that's always still fun. You find out different things that are going on in the area through the Hilton, different showcases that they have. And so, and it's great to have that experience too, because when I'm out volunteering, I'll oftentimes run into people through those connections that I made at the Hilton for all those years. So, and then in my free time, I clean a condo. It's actually a relationship I've had with someone for about 10 years. He lives in New Jersey, has a condo here in town, and just has me take care of it. So I kind of do that on my spare time. And then, of course, I have 3 boys. So I wear that hat of a mom. And I kind of bring them into whatever it is that I'm doing as well. So lots of hats.
That's amazing. See, I told you that this is going to be an entertaining conversation, because here's a lady who I don't know how she does it. It's all the time on the go. But I love the enthusiasm you bring, Michelle. And I love the way that you mentioned connections. You every time I see you, and I do overlap a little bit with some of those areas, but every time I see you, you're making connections between people and what they need and how you can help them and how you add value. Why is it that you're motivated to add value? What kind of started that journey for you? Because you do it all the time, as far as I can see. Maybe you stop occasionally, maybe you sleep sometimes. But what is it motivates you to add value?
Sleep sometimes is overrated. As long as I get my 6 hours, I'm good. 6 hours is good. It's funny. I'm going to tell you a story about how it changed my life at a really young age. I was 13, and I was in junior high school, and there was this girl that had, like, she just seemed like she had that joy. And no matter, same thing, like, no matter who she came in contact with, and it did, in junior high, you know, it was very cliquish, and, you know, you had the popular kids and the not popular kids, you had the rich kids and the poor kids, and I would watch her, and she loved people exactly where they were. And I was in awe of this girl. And so I got the opportunity to get with her and say, listen, what is it that how do you do that? Like,
Right.
I want to know the secret, because I want to be like that. How do you do that? And she, believe it or not, brought me to church.
Right,
And introduced me to the Trinity, and you know, I became a believer at a young age. It was in a Baptist church. They wanted me to burn all my albums, and I thought my father was going to crucify the church. But you know, in learning that, and just seeing the difference that it made from the outside in, I wanted to be like that. I really did. I wanted to kind of be that light for people, and it doesn't matter where you are. And to me, that's kind of how I feel loved by God, that no matter where I am, because I'm so far from perfect, but no matter where I am, that I know that He loves me beyond measure. And so for me, I gain so much of that energy. I always tell people it comes from above for me to give it out. And that's what drives me. It really is. It's hard to explain, because the Holy Spirit is always guiding me. Sometimes does this, you know, if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right.
But always that forgiving and loving, and just being there for people,
Right.
because you never know what they're going through. You never know what is ailing them, or you know, just and the devastation that's going on right now in our area, and you know, with the flooding and people losing so much, that just a glimmer of hope and a glimmer of positivity, that no matter what, it's going to be okay. You know, that God will find a way to bring us through whatever it is that we're in. So that's why I value being a value to people, and just giving them that positive motivation and reinforcement.
I love that, because, of course, we're recording this right in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, and lots of devastation.
Lots.
But clearly you're connecting with lots of different people in different places and in different ways. Talk to us a little bit about how you adapt. You know, you're bringing a lot of energy, and you rightly said that a lot of that comes from outside of you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just something you work up for the benefit that it creates. It's something that's happening as a download, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
But when you come into contact with different people, talk to us a little bit about how you adapt, or how you approach making those connections.
You know, I sometimes I don't adapt well. However,
Well, that's good self-awareness.
and
That's okay.
well, and that's the thing. To me, bringing positivity, it doesn't matter your race, your income, your, you know, where you live, and what you have. When you bring positivity, you just, as long as you're bringing it genuinely, you just bring positivity. And so I'm gonna mention this. Yesterday, we had a ribbon cutting for one of my chamber investors called Race Path Community Center, and Race Path is not a wealthy area. It's, you know, it's been downtrodden at different points in time, and it was really awesome. They had this entire timeline on one of their walls and I think it's great, because the community center is for a lot of kids, actually, for like after school or summertime, for them to grow and thrive. And I think it was so important to see the beginnings.
Right.
And they have this timeline on the wall. And so going there, and I'm not from here, so I didn't know the richness of that community and what it brought, and how people have really, through these decades, have grown in the community of the Myrtle Beach area. And people may never have heard of the Race Path area, but just it's such an enrichment to our community. But it was a change. I can walk into, let's say, a completely different type of community. And Race Path is probably 98% African American.
Right.
But it's a very comfortable feeling to still be able to walk in as a Caucasian white woman that some people may look at as, oh, she's privileged, or, oh, she's, she may be this or she may be that. But in all actuality, I just want to bring positivity as a change. So do I adapt? Not really, because I'm genuine to begin with. So I don't really adapt because I'm coming with a loving and a serving and a giving positive mentality. Right. Is that a fair answer?
And I love the way that you've not answered the question in a way that really answers the question, because to be genuine, and because you genuinely care, regardless of whoever it is you're interacting with, that is such a huge thing. And I love that you can trace back the source of that genuineness to your whole life journey, but the way that it's created in you to be who you are.
Right.
And that's beautiful. I love that.
It's come through some growing.
Good.
Yeah,
that's where I was going to go next. So talk to us, because it hasn't always been that you've been as positive and as warm and as connecting as you are now, presumably. So talk to us a little bit about, without pushing anybody under any buses.
Right.
Talk to us a little bit about the journey of getting to where you are now.
It's funny because growing up, I kind of had that great family connection. I really did. My mom and dad were married for 36 years. There's a whole story that goes along with that, but it was a great childhood. My parents did everything together. Like they worked together. They drove to work and drove home together. They would bowl together. They would. My dad played softball. My mother was always at his games. And so, I had that great family bonding growing up. And then we're originally from Bloomington, Indiana, which it's a college town, but it's kind of like Myrtle Beach. Everybody knows everybody. Like it's close-knit other than the college itself, which brings in a ton of different people. But, it was I was disciplined, yet I was given a lot of freedoms. And so growing up in that environment, things were good. They could always be challenging because my parents were factory workers, but it was a good environment. And then ended up, their factories closed. They moved to Myrtle Beach. That was where they wanted to retire. They had come here twice a year, every year. I had never, ever been because it was their vacation. And then they ended up retiring and moving here. I believe it was in about 1997 when they did that. And but they got here, and it was strange. My dad, they both semi-retired, but my dad got to play at a golf course. I think it was he gave buckets of balls at the golf course. So his semi-retirement was pretty easy. But now my mother's semi-retirement wasn't. She was younger, so she still had to work full time. And it kind of, I saw the wedge being created because then they couldn't be together all the time. And so they ended up divorcing after 36 years of marriage. And it kind of destroyed a lot of things in me that I had believed in for all that time. And it, the reality of love doesn't last forever, or the reality of the vows being broken, and just all of that kind of crumbled a lot of my true beliefs that I had been raised with. So So I tried. I was married. I actually got married in 2002 here in Myrtle Beach, and tried to really build on what I thought my core beliefs were. And so I tried. Like, I really, really tried. It's funny because after 16 years of marriage, I did walk away, but I tried. My original counselor said, and we had gone through 3 different counselors over the course of 15 years. My original marriage counselor said, you know what? I have never seen anyone try as hard as you could to really because divorce is so easy. Right? You get married, you get divorced, no big deal. But I really wanted it to work. So there was a time in the marriage where, like, the first 5 years, when things actually, I gave my ring back on our honeymoon.
Oh. Okay.
I know it's such a strange story, but I kid you not. The like year and a half, 2 years we had dated, everything was great. And I look back on it, and I think that maybe that was the whole perception of, hey, let me do all the right things so she'll marry me. And then literally on the honeymoon, things came out that I was like, who is this person?
Oh my.
It was really strange. But I had said my vows. I was determined. So the first 5 years, I read Power of a Praying Wife, and I was like, change me, Lord. What can I do, right? Okay. And then, it still didn't come to fruition. Like, the marriage was rough. It was really rough for me, because here I am trying to do my very best for not only as an individual, given that I was still faithful, because, I had accepted Christ when I was 13. So I'm still trying to, work on me, but then also submitting to a husband that wasn't really being the head of the household and coming back to care for me as I'm caring for him. And then also being a mother and trying to be on the same page and raising our children. And there was some really, really, really rough times coming through that. And, I volunteered at church. That was kind of my give and take. That was kind of where I was able to flourish. And I'm going to sideline for just a second to tell you that I ran into a young lady just like a week ago. And I had taught her in Sunday school during this really difficult time in my life at home, but yet being able to feed into those kids, right? That was really big for me, because that I felt like I was still doing something right, even though personally I never felt that. So in church and Sunday school, I'm feeding into these kids, and this girl came up to me. We just randomly ran into each other at Chick-fil-A, and she said, "It's because of you that I serve at church now.
Wow.
You made such a difference for me to be who I am today." And so that made me feel really good, because she had no idea of the struggle that I was in. And so those days were hard. I felt confined. And I felt, I felt like I was in a no-win situation. Like, and I still gave up my all. Like, I still really tried. I was just with a person that was very different than me. Mm-hmm. And someone that I felt like I just couldn't make them happy no matter what I did. But now you learn through those difficulties where happiness is a choice. Uh-huh. And no matter what I did, if he literally chose not to be happy, it doesn't matter what song and dance I do. If they genuinely are not happy, there's nothing I can do to change that.
Yeah. Wow.
And so those struggled times of just growing within myself. And once I literally made the break. And it was hard because my youngest child was 6. And of course, I never, as a mother, you never want to hurt your children, right? But I also knew that if I would have stayed, that this child would not have had the best upbringing that I could possibly. Exactly. And so just growing through that. And I think now that's why I do all that I do, because when you feel confined for all of those years, and it was, like I said, it was a 16-year marriage. I didn't feel confined all of those years, but there were a lot of years that I did. And so when the break happened, it was like the floodgates opened, and that's when God really started working on me and like, okay, I want you to serve. I want you. You've been given this freedom now to do and go and be. What are you going to do with it?
I love that. So much in what you've said that really helps our listeners. First off is that you just keep applying yourself to learning about yourself and to understanding the other, even when it's in a really difficult situation, but you've got no control over whether it works or not. But I love how you brought out that it's still done so much in you, even though for whatever reason he wasn't able to benefit from that. But then the whole deal of the freedom you felt when you were able to end that squeeze time, that difficult time. It's almost like we're seeing the cork come back out now, all of us who know you now.
And there's champagne everywhere.
And there's champagne everywhere, exactly, yes. And that's a beautiful thing, because actually the pressure wouldn't have built for the champagne to go everywhere if you hadn't gone through the hard time. And that's so powerful. Because what I'm hearing in what you're saying is that you've been genuine all the way along, and your genuineness, your authenticity has only increased because of the pressure. And I know that some of you listening or watching will be in a place where you need to hear that, that you're in a squeeze right now. It's difficult, it's hard, but don't cut it short, because actually it's the pressure that's going to bring you to where you're going to be beneficial to yourself and to others when you come out of that.
Exactly. That's that iron in the fire, right?
Okay, yeah, right.
And it sharpens, and it has to go through the fire.
Totally.
You know, it's one of my favorite things. One of my favorite Bible stories is about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? Yeah. Where they're under fire. They're being questioned for their values, and they're like, you know what?
If we burn, we still believe what we believe.
Exactly. So that's fire is real, but it can bring out so much.
That's beautiful. I love it. And now I feel like so many people benefit from, back to the original analogy of the cork coming out of the bottle here and the champagne going everywhere. It's almost like you bring champagne to every place you go, and for there to be champagne in an attorney's office is kind of bizarre to some of us, but we've had Tom Winslow on the podcast already before, and if you're looking for that one, it's in season 2. Great conversation with Tom, and that'll give you an understanding a little bit of how Michelle works with Tom. But for you to be able to bring yourself to those different settings, I mean, I couldn't imagine anything quite as different as branding an attorney's office and then helping people develop their own branding and find the promotional products that go with it, and then going around to all the different businesses, helping them to make the most of their chamber membership. That to me seems like 3 completely different worlds, but it's like you seem to live in all 3 of those very comfortably. And with the way that you do that, I'm wondering if anybody sees you as maybe a little too much. So do you have anything you could say to people who have people say to them, hey, you're a little too much? How do you handle that kind of reaction?
It's funny that you say that, because I know that about me, that I am. There are certain people, probably my ex-husband, she's way too much. But it's, to me, it's the persona that you bring, if it is who you are. One of the things that I laughed about the podcast, about maybe the microphone being too close, because I'm my voice carries. It's something that I've always dealt with. I used to be a cheerleader when I was in 7th grade because I had the loudest voice, not because I, did the best tumbles or, I was a great bass because I was kind of a heavy girl. I was a great bass and a great loud voice. And so you're on. But
Yeah.
I am a lot. I am a lot. And I don't think I'm too much, but I am a lot. And
that's a very important distinction, to understand yourself in that light. Sorry, I interrupted.
No. It's thank you for that, because I need reassurance. But, one of the things that I had, and I had this as my Facebook for a long, long time, that says, take me as I am or watch me as I go. It's impossible for me to apologize for who I am, because I feel that God has created me for such a bigger purpose. And I believe that where I am today, that people know that I'm going to be me, and we're gonna have a great time. And I'll meet you where you are. And if you don't like to dance, that's fine. We'll sing or, whatever it is that you like to do, unless it's read a book. Sorry, Eileen.
Right.
I am not a reader. Now I can read. I'm capable of reading. It's not something I enjoy, because it means sitting still, right? And just trying to take in a book, which isn't something that really gets me going. I'm an active kind of girl, and
we noticed this, yeah.
Yeah, that's
for the listeners and the watchers here. Michelle posts a video of her dancing every Wednesday just to cheer us all up.
Yes,
and you're that kind of person.
Yes,
and that's what I love. And of course, we could talk all morning, but I know you don't have time to do that. And the episode won't allow us to do that. But what I love about what you've shared with us is your authenticity, but also your depth of self-awareness, because you've done the work to understand yourself. And then because you've got that self-awareness, you're actually able to adapt to bring who you are to other people, but in a way that benefits them. It's not all about you.
It's never about me.
Well, I'd noticed this, and that's why I invited you on, because actually you're a great example for all of us that it's not about me, it's about everybody around me. And so I want to thank you for that. Is there any one thing that you feel like we haven't touched on that you'd love our listeners to hear in terms of communication and bringing value to people?
I think it's important to understand that every decision has a repercussion, right? Mm-hmm. But the positive decisions have such an impact on others. If you cannot find a way to be happy within yourself, you cannot look to someone else to bring you that happiness. You've got to be happy with who you are. You've got to be happy with what you do. Even if you hate your job, you still make the most of it because you're employed, right? You've got to see the simplicity in the blessings. And I'm truly blessed. I say it all the time. I'm blessed to be a blessing. That's the reason why I volunteer. That's the reason why I give. And I don't give financially. I give of me, which to me is an even deeper resource. My time and my energy.
And yourself.
And myself, exactly. But know, for each one of the listeners, that's really the core, is what it's about. You got to be confident and happy within yourself in order to make the world a better place.
Beautiful. Well, Michelle, thank you for sharing yourself with all of us. It's been a pleasure. Like I say, we could talk all morning, but we mustn't.
Yes.
But thanks for coming on. Thank you for sharing yourself with us. Thanks for being you and inspiring the rest of us to do the same.
Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you for the opportunity.
And we will see you next week.